All right, the Pilates Reformer can look like a torture device, let's be real, and some of its exercises can feel that way. However, the Pilates Reformer is a great tool, one of many great tools that Joseph Pilates created for us that can help take our strength to the next level, improve balance, posture, flexibility, and most importantly, help you do the mat practice better. Today, we're going to discuss what the Pilates Reformer is, how to choose one for yourself, and my favorite home reformer that's out there. Hi, I'm Lesley Logan, founder of Online Pilates Classes.com. I've been doing Pilates since 2005 and teaching it since 2008. In fact, one of the many amazing people I got to train from was one of Joseph Pilates' clients. And so I really love how the entire method of Pilates works together and how the Reformer is actually one part of that. And it's really exciting to share that with you today. So the Reformer, again, is a tool in our Pilates practice. It is one of the many tools that Joseph Pilates gave us. We have a Cadillac, we have the window chair. The mat is its actual own apparatus. It's an actual piece of equipment. And so when we use the Reformer, it is here to help us with our mat practice, which then helps us do life better. Speaking of the mat, you actually do not need to have access to a Reformer to be doing Pilates or to get really good at Pilates. You can do only the mat, and it's one of the most accessible pieces of equipment we have out there. And you can check out our beginner-friendly mat class, and you can also go to the link in our show notes below. Make sure you subscribe to this channel so you never miss one of our workouts that comes out, and we always go live to answer your questions on Sunday. Welcome to OnlinePilatesClasses.com, the most supportive Pilates-loving community across the globe. Enjoy new weekly classes from our amazing teachers. Download the OnlinePilatesClasses.com app today. All right, so what is a Reformer? Well, this is what it looks like, or some iteration of this. It has a foot bar that can lower and lift, and that is depending on the exercise and what you're using it for. It has springs. So these springs, there's 4 of them underneath the equipment. Some Reformers will have 5 springs, and they'll be different colors. My Reformer is the one that is as close to what Joseph Pilates created as we can find out there right now. And so I only have 4 springs, and all of my springs weigh the same amount. But you might come across a Reformer that has 5 hooks, and they'll have springs that are lighter and heavier, depending on what they're doing. So when the springs are attached and you move the carriage out, it creates resistance, and then the springs want to come home, but you have to determine how quickly that happens. So this is called the carriage. You lie on this carriage, you can stand on this carriage, you can sit on it, depending on the exercise. There are shoulder blocks. Again, another way to close the chain, create connections. It's called a Reformer for a reason. So it's helping pull your shoulders on your back and give you some feedback there. Oftentimes your hands are even on these, or your feet. Then we have handles. So as you can see, these handles right here, this wood spins. I'm telling you all this because these are key things you want to look at when choosing a Reformer. All right. So I prefer handles like this for your hands because it does allow the Reformer to do what it does best, which is actually connect you more to yourself. And so with this kind of a handle in my hand, I can connect my shoulder on my back more versus a loop. Then we have leather loops for some exercises. And then we have extra straps to make the straps even longer. Some Reformers, the straps get longer and shortened, and they have loops already attached. However, this one, I can make the loops longer, and I can still have access to the handle. And then we have a headrest that can go up or down, depending on the exercise we're doing. And then we have what's called a short or a long box. This is a key piece of equipment because it does give us access to even more exercises that can help us connect more to our bodies. So it lays on the carriage either long ways like this, or you can put it short ways for its short box. And so both are essential. So you want to make sure that when you're looking at a Reformer, you have access to this box. So this is a Reformer. What it can do for us is this. Because of the springs, it actually does help us understand how to activate our muscles when we don't have the springs. And the springs can be very supportive. So depending on where your level is, you will use more springs or less springs from certain exercises, and it will really help you find your center. Otherwise, it can be like we're doing choreography. So when you have these springs, it really helps you understand like how to stretch your legs from the right muscles. So when you don't have springs, you know how to do it. So it really is a great teaching tool. And yes, an advanced practitioner will use this Reformer. There are some exercises that are from beginner to intermediate to advanced and super advanced. However, what is so great about this Reformer is it really does help us not use it when we go to do our mat practice. So this is what a Reformer is. So a lot of people I'll often ask, like, what is Reformer Pilates versus Pilates? So let me just help you out right there. Reformer Pilates is Pilates. So remember, Joseph Pilates created the mat work first. And then he saw that we needed a lot of support. Our bodies needed to understand how to move from our center better. A lot of us can move from our shoulder and our wrists and our elbow, but not from our center out first. And so not only did he create the Reformer, but he did create other pieces of apparatus as well, the Cadillac, armchair, one-to chair, etc. So the Reformer is essentially just one piece of tool in the Pilates method. If you want to call something Reformer Pilates, it just means that you're doing a practice on a Reformer. It's not actually a separate type of Pilates that's out there. It's one tool in a bigger method. If you have access to a Reformer and you'd like to do a Reformer class with me, we actually have 2 full-length Reformer classes here on the channel. You can also grab the links in the show notes below. And remember, when you're doing those Reformer classes, make sure that you also try out some mat to see how the Reformer made your mat practice even better. All right, so now you've got to choose your Reformer that works best for you. Here is the deal. Reformers are actually not inexpensive. They are very expensive. And oftentimes I see people trying to find something that's only a few $100s. I will be very honest with you. The more things you take away from what I discussed as being part of the Reformer, the less abilities you have in a Reformer practice. In fact, it will limit the exercises you can do. It will also create limitations for you. So let's just talk about what you should be looking for. Most Reformers are actually going to be over $2,000. I do prefer them to be elevated from the ground just because it is easier access for you to get down onto them. And also some exercises require there to be space between the Reformer and the floor. For example, your pulling straps exercise. If your Reformer is on the floor, even on top of a box, you will not be able to do that exercise. It will affect your teaser exercise. So there's a lot of things that we lose when we get the Reformers closer and closer to the floor. Also, if you are picking a Reformer that doesn't use springs and says it uses cables, it is going to take away the ability for you to resist the equipment coming home. And so you'll be working on the way out, but the equipment is going to work itself home. And so when you have these limitations, when they take these things away, yes, the price gets lower, but also it affects you getting the full benefits of a Reformer practice. And I do want you to have the full benefits. So if you're like, Lesley, I really want a Reformer, I can't afford it right now, I do have a free guide. Go ahead and check it out in the show notes below that helps you build a home Pilates studio for the space that you have and also considering your budget. So just know that most Reformers are going to be around $2,000 to about $5,000. They get a little bit more expensive if you attach a tower to the end of them, which can be a great space saver. I do have a video about doing combos, and we can talk more about that later in the comments below. But you are looking at spending between $2,000 and $5,000, especially with tax and shipping. In the show notes below, I also have an affiliate link to some amazing equipment that you can choose from, and they have a variety of Reformers to choose from. But here's what I want you to look for. You can choose oftentimes between aluminum and wood. The reason I love aluminum, it's actually lightweight. I move this Reformer with my husband around this house all the time because this frame is extremely light once you take the carriage off, all right? You want a foot bar that does lower and lift. You do not want a foot bar that is stationary. You do want springs, okay? And you do need the box to come with it. Oftentimes it will go optional. Add the box. You are losing out on a good 15 amazing exercises for all levels when you remove that box from the equipment. And ideally, you would have handles as part of the equipment versus loops. However, if you only can get it with loops, I understand there are ways to add a handle to that, and we can talk about that in another video. So when you're looking for a Reformer, know that it is an investment. You do want a headrest that lowers and lifts because that does change the exercises and supports your neck in different ways. So there's oftentimes some companies will have payment plans. I love a payment plan. As I mentioned, I do have an affiliate link that can save you some money. I have to say that it will also mean I make a little bit of money, but I believe in having as much access as possible. This particular Reformer is actually only 80 inches. Most people just need an 80-inch Reformer. If you're over 6'4", then you're probably going to look at an 86-inch Reformer. I do not love 89s and 91s. They just get too big and they're not really accessible for a home. But this is an 80-inch. It lives in a guest bedroom that I have most of the time, just only a 10 by 12 room, and I have plenty of room for this and all my other pieces of equipment. So I know this seems like a weird thing to say as a Reformer for the house, but it is an essential one. I think it's really, really great. If you are looking at wood Reformers, you want to make sure that you understand the type of living climate you're in. Wood warps over time. It is also a heavier piece of equipment. So while it does look really pretty if you like that aesthetic and maybe less of a torture device than mine, it can warp over time. Here's the thing. If you're watching this and you have a reformer that doesn't have the things that I'm talking about right now, there are amazing places where you can resell your equipment for probably what you paid for. Pilates equipment actually does hold its value really, really well. And then you can buy the one that you want. So that's really fun too. Some other ways to pick a reformer that works best for you is oftentimes we like what we're used to. So if you are going to a studio that has a reformer and you really do love it, get that one. If you don't love that, or you're like, oh, but Lesley, I really like what yours is, and you want to try out something like this, there are often people around the world who have reformers that you can take a session with. You'll have to buy the session, but you can take the session, try out their equipment before you buy it. It's very rare that there's not like a place, like a store that you can go to and try all the reformers out. However, if you can, just take a tour of studios in your area. Try out the equipment they have, find out the one you love, and then that way you can search from there without making a purchase that you don't love. Also, look at online marketplaces. Again, there are used equipment everywhere. Sometimes people inherit a reformer, they don't even know what it is, and they sell it for nothing. So you might even get an amazing one really inexpensively. So if you are still interested, you still have questions, please put in the comments below. I love chatting about reformers that are right for you, even about your height and things like that. Again, this is an 80-inch, so for my people who are under 5'6", you'll definitely love this, but I'm almost 5'10", and I'm on an 80-inch, all right? And again, check out my free guide. The link is in the show notes. It's going to help you figure out what pieces of equipment are great for your home studio. It may be that you love the reformer, but you're better off having a one-to chair or a spine corrector in your home. So check out that guide. It really does explain like different pieces of equipment that can fit in a small space to a big space. Okay, let's talk about the best at-home Pilates reformer out there, in my opinion. It's this one. This is the Contrology Reformer by Balanced Body. Contrology is what Joseph Pilates used to call his method. He didn't call it Pilates, he called it Contrology, which is the study of control of our bodies, which is so amazing. And this reformer really does mean you are studying your control. Its springs are what we call a long neck spring, which means when the actual spring is closed, the carriage is not closed. And so you can see that here. This is a long neck spring. So you actually have to close it yourself. The spring doesn't close itself, which is amazing in my opinion. The way the shoulder blocks are designed and the way the carriage is designed so that your heels can actually reach down here is awesome. So this actual equipment, what I love the most about it as a teacher and as a practitioner. As a teacher, my clients actually need less cueing from me because the carriage and the equipment is designed in such a way that you set yourself up in the best way. So you don't have to have someone hands-on, eyes on you all the time, which is the point of having something at home. You don't want to have someone on you all the time. Also, as the practitioner, you can really feel the feedback of the equipment. You can understand when you're cheating, when you're connecting, and when you're disconnecting, right? So it's really amazing. It is an 80-inch, which means it does not take up a lot of space. As you can see, it's right in front of my fireplace. This actually lives in a bedroom in our house. It is a 10 by 12 room. We can move it in and out because this frame is super light. The heavy part is the carriage, but we can actually move this around. No, it doesn't slide under a bed. But remember, if you have a reformer that's on the floor, you are losing out on several exercises because there's not enough space between the floor and the reformer. It is not cheap, which means that it is an expense. It's an investment in your practice. But if you're going to do Pilates for life, this reformer is going to last me forever and ever and ever. So what you also want to consider is that if the reformer has cables and it's on the floor and it has ropes and the foot bar only has a locked position and not, you're going to be giving up a lot of things that it comes to this practice. And that's fine. If your price point is what it is, I understand. You can see in my link to equipment in the show notes below that Balanced Body and Contrology have a variety of reformers at a variety of prices. So please, you're in good hands. They're great quality equipment. However, you do give things up every time your reformer changes height, changes length. The springs change to cables. The foot bar gets wider, longer, and higher up. It does affect the practice that you'll have. So it's just something you want to consider when you're choosing a reformer that works for you. One more thing. Let's talk about these straps. So you will see different reformers that have risers and ropes, or no risers, but just ropes. The reality is that this leather is actually an organic material, and it's going to help connect you more with yourself. So this leather really does work with me. It does not recoil itself, which means I am the one who has to work my body. If the equipment does recoil itself, it does take away the opportunity for you to resist the actual springs. And so again, you end up working one direction, but not the other direction. Pilates is different from other forms of fitness because we are working both directions, not just one, right? It's not like you work really hard and you release. So having these leather straps, and again, because they don't have risers, it makes it really easy for me to I can put my box on top of it. I can take up as little space as possible. I can slide it against a wall. So yeah, it doesn't go against the bed. No, it doesn't go up against the wall, but it absolutely can take up as little space as it does right here. And I can pull it out, work on it, and push it back against the wall if I need to. Right, August? At onlinepilatesclasses.com, we actually have classes on all different types of equipment. So the Reformer is one of them. In fact, we have a Reformer and mat membership, and then we have an all studio access membership. So if you do have access to Reformer, I want you to check out our classes. We actually have a promo that you can use because you're watching us on YouTube. It's onlinepilatesclasses.com/YouTube. It's also in the show notes, so you can't miss it. What's super fun is we have a variety of teachers who have different Reformers at their homes, and then we have a ton of members with different Reformers at their homes. So whatever Reformer you choose for you, you'll be able to take classes at OPC, and we can support you in making sure that your straps are the right length, that you're using the right springs. When you're a member, you can send in a video of yourself on your Reformer doing an exercise, and we can actually help provide feedback and let you know if your placement is correct, if your spring setting is correct for you, because here is the deal. This is a tool in our Pilates practice, and every single one of us has different bodies that is on a different Reformer, and so each exercise can be slightly different. So you do want someone who can provide feedback for you and your practice so that you can connect your Reformer in the best way and help hold you accountable to that practice. So check us out at onlinepilatesclasses.com/YouTube. If you're wondering if OPC is the right place for you and how it works, just check out this other video that we have here on YouTube. It's going to explain everything, and we really do hope to see you over there. In the meantime, let me know in the show notes what Reformer you have. If you have questions about it, I can answer that live on Sunday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. Have an amazing day. Thank you so much.